Your excuses are a sign of a lack of commitment. Yeah, this is a lesson I learned this morning. I had a call with one of my coaches and had committed to do a number of things for him, and I didn't deliver. And when you don't deliver, a lot of things happen. Number one, it reduces trust between the two of you. Do you do what you say you're going to do? Are you committed to it? Because our word really is everything we have. And, it ends up being a little embarrassing when I'm taught a lesson that I already know. And if we commit to something, we need to make it a priority because excuses just show weakness. And I can think of lots of things in my life over the years that, for whatever reason, I put down as a goal and I didn't achieve it. And I had lots of reasons as to why I didn't achieve it. And I asked myself, should it have been a goal? I often say, is it too big of a goal? Those are all kind of excuses. Bottom line, if I made a goal, am I committed to the goal? Do I make it a priority? And if I do, there's no excuse. And I could look at goals that I made as a kid in high school in sports, and if I didn't achieve them, I had a reason. It was the weather, or I was tired, I didn't get enough sleep, or I had too much to do, or man, the excuses are endless. And in talking with my coach this morning, I started to realize that any of us, if we have a dream, if we have a goal, if it's not yet achieved, generally there are excuses that have gotten in the way. And what are those excuses? Because, anything but progress you could look at as a form of excuse. And the other thing we talked about are, I would say my excuses were stupid, but really they could be valid excuses. There could be real reasons as to why you couldn't get something done or you didn't achieve something. And whether it's a valid excuse or a stupid excuse, you still didn't get it done. It still wasn't a commitment, or you didn't make it a priority, because if it's the priority, you'll get it done, regardless of the reason, the validity of the reason that you didn't. As I think about ways to potentially improve on a situation, so when I make a commitment, what are some things that would help? Because, it happens more often than I'd like. I do feel like I accomplish a lot, I've achieved a lot, but the gap of what I want to achieve versus what I've achieved, I make an excuse for. And one of the things that I can start to do, or one of the things that have certainly worked in the past, is having some form of accountability partner. Like in this instance, a coach of mine called me out on it. He didn't let it slide. I had valid reasons for why I couldn't get something done. At least in my head, I thought they were valid. But as he poked holes in it and got me thinking, there are ways that I could have gotten something done. And they're just excuses. And excuses are kind of dumb because I'm the one that made the commitment. I wasn't, I didn't have to commit to this. So if I made a commitment, and then I have an excuse, did I lie on the commitment? If it was a goal that I announced that I wanted to achieve and I make excuses, was it really a goal? That's the question we have to ask ourselves, because excuses really only hurt ourselves. We produce reasons for why we didn't do anything. When I think about people that have worked for me, or my kids, or friends, when they've made a commitment to me, or they said they were going to do something, maybe they didn't view it as a commitment, but I heard it as something that they were going to do, and I hear excuses, how do I treat it? Do I just let it, be said and brush it aside? No, generally I call it out because it's something I was counting on. I know it was something that they wanted to do. And so I feel an accountability or a responsibility to hold them accountable for what they said they were going to do. I also realize that when somebody tells me they're committed to something, for instance, loan officers that work for me, when they say they're committed to originate a certain amount of loans and they don't, I didn't tell them to originate a certain amount of loans. They tell me they're going to originate a certain amount of loans. And so I got to ask, were you lying to me? Did you really believe you were going to originate that many loans? Did something change? But what I hear are generally a lot of excuses, like the market, or I, didn't have time, or they weren't, the customer wasn't available when I called them, and their excuses. And I try to coach these loan officers to commit to only what they know they're going to commit to, because our word is really the only thing we have. As human beings, our word is really it. So my coaching to people, to our loan officers, is to hold your word close to your heart, because I know you want to be valued for what you say you're going to do. You don't want to have a reputation for being a flake or not doing what you say you're going to do, because when you do what you say you're going to do, as a leader, people follow. If you continually have excuses or don't deliver on what you say you're going to do, people generally leave. People follow people that they trust, and trust is built off of doing what you say you're going to do. So it was a big lesson for me this morning, because I heard it. I was called out, and there's nowhere to hide. I did have valid reasons in my head, but when I started thinking about what I committed to, man, it's something that I really want to do, and I didn't do it. So if I want to do it, I tell people I'm going to do it. I got to do it, otherwise I lose trust. Also, even if you don't tell somebody, if you're committed to yourself, if I'm committed to losing a certain amount of weight, or being able to run a certain time, a certain distance, if I commit to myself that I'm going to lose 10 pounds, or if I'm going to run a mile in under 7 minutes, and I don't, if I make excuses like it was raining, I couldn't train, or there's too many bad things to eat in the house, and I make excuses as to why I didn't lose weight or to why I didn't run under 7 minutes, the only person that's hurting is me. And it causes me to lose trust in myself, to potentially lose some self-esteem, because if you get to a point where you don't even believe yourself, I think that's the beginning of a lot of problems. Because if you don't believe in yourself, and it causes you to eventually not like yourself or trust yourself, that ends up being how you treat everything. So if you make excuses for one thing, generally that's how you do everything. You have excuses as to why you don't do what you're going to do, or what we set up. Another thing, we set up goals at the beginning of the year. We call them resolutions, but they're things that we say to ourselves and to others that this year I'm going to do this. And oftentimes, and studies have proved it, that It's not the case. Resolutions disappear inside of 60 days, sometimes faster than that. For me, some goals that I've put out at the beginning of the year have been goals that I've put out at the beginning of every year for the last 10 years. And it continues to just pick at my confidence level or my weaknesses as to not being able to put systems in place or hold myself accountable. And that's why we hire coaches. And like I said a second ago, once you get in the habit of making excuses for not doing one thing, it's generally what you do for everything. So moving forward, what action am I going to take? Number one, when I make a commitment, I've got to write it down. I've done that in the past where I have a promise book or a commitment book. I've called it a promise book. And I write down commitments I've made. I call them promises so people can rely on me doing what I say I'm going to do. And I did it really in the domain of leadership because I want people to follow me. So I've made it a very important task for myself, commitment, that I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do. And I worked very hard at it. And when I didn't do what I said I was going to do, I honored that. I told people up front as to what I didn't deliver, and I didn't make excuses. And because of that, our company grew and people followed me. And so I think, one of the suggestions I have is for people to, for you to, for me to start that promise list again or commitment list, just so that I know the commitments that I make are in front of me, and make it a habit to look at them every single day. Assign a date to them when you make a commitment, when you say you're going to do something, so you don't make excuses. You're going to do it by this date. And again, my advice would be that if you can't make that commitment, don't make excuses. Make a phone call and recommit and put a new date to it. People don't want to hear reasons as to why you didn't. I mean, sure, there are big things that could happen to us in life that people would understand why you didn't do something. But by and large, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about saying you're going to do something by Friday and having a reason why you didn't do it. And having those reasons be, I didn't have the time, or this came up, or that came up. Those are lame excuses, and I've heard them through the years, and I've done them through the years, and it's just a sign of weakness. And I was reminded of that this morning. As I said, it's embarrassing to me to pride myself on doing what I say I'm going to do, and then being called out for not delivering. So number one, write it down and make it a habit to look at it every day or every night or a couple times a day, and start checking things off, communicating to people what you're committed to. That, my son asked to borrow some money, and he told me he was going to pay me back a little bit every month. And not surprisingly, he hasn't. And more importantly, I don't need or want him to pay me back, but I want to know, or I want him to learn, that his commitment to pay me back matters. So if I hear from him that, hey, I know I made a commitment that I would pay you this much each month, and I've failed or I've dropped the ball, I'm still committed to that, or I'd like to recommit to this. No excuses. Generally comes up with all these excuses, and to me, I pretty much stop listening after the first excuse. And so again, talking with my coach this morning, as I'm talking, I'm realizing blah, 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 they're just excuses. So write it down, make it a habit, and I think at some level, have some form of accountability system or person that you could talk about your commitments and have somebody hold you accountable. In relationships and marriage, we generally have our spouse that holds us accountable to what we say we're going to do. Friendships generally do the same thing. On a sports team, you have your coach, or you have other players holding you accountable. In business, we have our peers. As a leader, I have people that work for us that remind me of what I've committed to all the time. So it's critically important, you guys, to make sure that as we commit to things, first make sure it's something that we're really committing to and that there's a reason for committing to it, and make it a priority to deliver what you say we're going to do. It's the foundation of trust. Trust is the foundation of kind of everything we build. So it was a extremely valuable lesson for me today. It was a reminder, and it's certainly something that I'm going to put on the top of my list. That in itself is a commitment. Doing what I say I'm going to do and following through on my commitments has become my top priority.